to do the fighting while the very wealthy and well-educated stay behind. Maybe Bud McFarland was involved in this issue for a lot over the years, and maybe he'd have a comment.
In those years, as the Senator said, we asked you and colleagues who didn't have the wealth to buy your way out of the draft to come in, and you did a terrific job. The all-volunteer force has indeed produced the finest military we've ever had. These young men and women behind me right now are just phenomenal. Their intellect, their ability to deal with high technology, perform on the battlefield at a standard well above whatever I could do. So I think we have a very solid military. That said, I believe, the Senator has made recommendations about this, that volunteerism in our country is important. We really need to think hard, every one of us, about what we owe this country, what it's cost to give us the freedom that we enjoy today. It doesn't matter whether you're in the military, whether you're starting a scout troop in your community, whether you're serving in a volunteer in the hospital or the retirement home. The idea of doing something bigger than yourself, beyond yourself, is a spirit, an attitude, a state of mind that is a tradition in our country. Volunteerism, service, reaching out, caring about one another. And that ethic has got to continue. Right here in the heartland, it's strongest. Not nearly as strong in Washington. But I think we need somebody in the White House that's going to restore the idea of caring about something larger than yourself. And you're in the presence of a guy who can do that right here tonight.
Thank you, Bud. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Jim England. I'd like to ask one of these young people, we keep reading in the paper where they're sending them into combat without the right armor on their vehicle. Is that true or not?
Brandon and John, both, if you could comment.
Technically in 03, 04, when I was over there the first time, we were riding around in Humvees without up armor. This was, in fact, the initial stages of the war, and therefore we got our equipment. We definitely were well surplused as far as boots, everything, the up armor. Oh, I was actually in Tel Far, Mosul, Far Shell, did Operation Market Street in Husayba. I was with the 101st Airborne. I served under General Petraeus in 03, 04. 05, 06, I was actually served under Colonel Still, formerly known as Captain Still. He's on the movie Black Hawk Down. He was our brigade commander. But we definitely, our technological advancements at this time is phenomenal. We have the Blue Force Tracker, the Warlock systems. We have, the ICOMs. We're making advancements, so.
I'm very glad you asked this question. When I came back from Iraq on Thanksgiving Day, I served for 12 months in Mosul, and then I was in the Stryker Brigade, and we moved to Baghdad for an additional 4 months, the day before we were supposed to come home, because the Stryker vehicle cannot be defeated. We were one of the few brigades to go to Iraq and lose more people with small arms fire than IEDs. One of the main reasons I get to stand here today is because I rode in the Stryker vehicle. When I came back from Iraq, the Humvees, I rode in the Humvee for 3 months when I worked with the Iraqi army. When I would get in the Humvee, my head would be sideways because I'm too tall. My knee would be in my chest. And if we hit a bump, I would be sore. Let alone if an IED went off, I would easily snap my neck. Senator McCain and some of the other people have recommended these MRAP vehicles. What Senator McCain won't say because he doesn't want to put the troops in more danger. That bill went in February, the funding for the MRAP vehicles. That bill was stalled until May before it was passed. The reason it wasn't passed was they knew it would take 4 months to get the MRAP vehicles there because the president had to veto the bill because they called for immediate withdrawal within 6 months. What good would those vehicles do if you brought the soldiers home? Why would you put those vehicles in a bill if we weren't going to stay?
Could I also remind you, in this kind of warfare, initially, and I think our friends will mention, that the IED was a pretty simple device that was set off by a garage opener. and we learned to counter that. And then they became more sophisticated, and we learned to counter that, and then they became more sophisticated. Now we've got this horrible, it's not called an IED, it's a EFP. That has a molten copper head on it, and it will penetrate a tank. And it's coming from Iran. It's being built and shipped in from the Iranians. So I'm sure there were times where we should have been quicker to react and provide, for example, the MRAP and others. And I'm sure we should have probably done a better job. But I do believe that overall, the record of trying to provide first the up armored Humvees, now the Cougar and the Buffalo and those, and the MRAPs. I think generally that's pretty acceptable. But this kind of warfare we're in, there's always point and counterpoint that goes on here, and that's the unfortunate part. Yes, sir. Then I'll go to you, sir.
It's a pleasure having you here, Senator, in Council Bluffs. I had two brothers in World War II, and Roland was in the Army and Bill was in the Navy, and the good Lord looked after them and they came home. My question today to you, sir, is about when you become president, what kind of judges will you select for the Supreme Court?
Thank you, sir. I think probably the most important responsibility that any president of the United States has is the appointment of judges, because it's obvious they're lifetime appointments, and too often in the past we have seen judges legislate from the bench. We saw here in Iowa, I think, an example when, for the very brief period of time when the gay marriage was allowed, and that obviously was in contravention to the majority opinion as expressed at the ballot booth by the people of the state of Iowa. I was proud to have gotten together with 7 Republican senators, 7 Democrat senators, and we got all the judges through that were nominated by the President of the United States, including, I think, the finest Supreme Court justice Chief Justice of the Supreme Court we may have ever had in Justice Roberts and also Justice Alito. I think that it's a vital thing, and I promise you, my one criteria will be that nominee has a proven record of strict interpretation of the Constitution of the United States. Thank you.
Senator, I'm a Gulf War vet, and I have a personal letter for you, and I'd like somebody to hand this up to him, please, if you would. Thanking you for being a positive role model. Now, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I definitely want her to look up to patriots such as you, and not to Paris Hilton or Britney Spears. Now, 8 years ago, I tried to vote for you, but unfortunately, you weren't on the ballot. And something everybody here that wasn't at Neola, Iowa, needs to know: this is a very humble patriot we have with us today, because this man never once pulled a Billary and tried to express himself as a campaign candidate or anything as about his campaign or running, or that we should vote for him at the time he was in Neola. He did this for the veterans when they dedicated a memorial to the veterans, and I respect you very much, Senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I'd like to... It was a very moving experience in Neola. We had the people got together and they put together this beautiful, beautiful eagle that's downtown, and it was a wonderful occasion, the dedication of it, that I was honored to be there at Labor Day. I know that we're probably running a bit out of time. I would just maybe like to ask if, Bud, if you had any closing comments you would like to make, whether you still enjoy a deep-fried Twinkie and pork chop on a stick.
I love Big Red. Let me just conclude this with this comment. You know, back in 1996, our then President Bill Clinton terminated military medical care for retirements. I was so outraged